demonstrations of love. When a man was still a boy, he did something for a laugh. It was so careless and without thought that it cost someone their life. The boy did not consider that not only would the girl fall from the log and muddy her dress, but she would also strike her head on the rocks below. It seemed all life drained from that place on that day. The family that experienced the heavy loss were a peculiar people, and though they did not have much to say about themselves, the town was wrought with tales of their witchcraft. In fact, it was those stories that the boy thought of when the grandfather of the young girl who lost her life that fateful day began to charge in his direction. The old man grabbed the boy by his shirt collar, pulling him up to his chest. The boy could not breathe. It was like the air was being consumed with ash. The old man whispered behind his ear, "You will never know love." He dropped the boy to his feet, who then stumbled to the ground. And with one last piercing look before drifting into the crowd of mourning souls, the old man spoke. "May her curse follow you the rest of your life." Time had passed, and the boy grew older, as young boys do. The curse spoken to the boy on that day had left his mind, buried under long-forgotten nightmares of his troubled past, which I suppose is why he gave little thought to it when he met the girl of his dreams. On the day of their first anniversary, he decided to do something special. He ordered flowers from far away, the most expensive roses that money could buy. As he set them on the seat of her favorite stool, the out-of-season sunflowers that she had spent hours stitching into the fabric like her own little rays of sunshine became eclipsed by the massive red roses. It was on that night that the color of her eyes shifted from a gentle blue to a washed-out, hopeless gray. Although the doctors had no explanation for it, they were sure of its permanence. That's when the young man's superstition-filled fears came creeping in. What of the curse, he thought. So he vowed to try harder to show her his love. For her birthday, he cooked her the best meal that he had ever eaten, so she smiled and thanked him. It wasn't until the third bite that she realized the dish contained tomatoes, which she was allergic to, and began to feel a strange sensation in her throat. Gasping for help, she grabbed the bowl and smashed it to the floor so he could hear her plight. Again rushing her to the clinic, in which it would show that an allergy she had had since she was a child had not only taken her voice, but shifted her skin from vibrant and rosy to a gray and lifeless pallor. The doctors exclaimed that it was just an obscure reaction to her allergy and nothing more. But the man was convinced otherwise. Yelling with frustration at the doctors, he took her home, swearing he would get her better care in the city by taking her to a specialist the next morning. Out of desperation from the sight of her now ghastly appearance, he went out and bought her new clothes, custom-made from the softest fabric that he had ever touched. They were the most beautiful colors he had ever seen. "These will lift up your spirits," he thought. She gave him an empty smile and spoke with a low, raspy tone, and reminded him, although she could not see them, she was sure they were beautiful. With a tired look, she gestured without voice to the heavy blanket at the bottom of the bed. He replied by helping her into the newly bought colorful silk sleeping gown. Adjusting the blankets on his side of the bed to separate the cold, lifeless skin from his own, he fell asleep beside her. When he awoke to see her lying next to him the following morning, with her satin gown contorted at frightening angles, he was taken aback. As her eyes, glowing like embers from beyond the gates of eternity, fell upon him, he jumped back and fell to the floor. She was completely unrecognizable to him. Her blank stare greeted him as he looked upon her in death, her most monstrous form yet. With the lasting image of her still fresh in his mind, he stumbled to the car, racing to the creator of this curse, ready to pass the blame on to its rightful owner. The game had been rigged from the start. The love of his life had been murdered out of revenge for the mistake of a petulant child who could hardly have known what damage he would have caused. As he arrived at the house he so eagerly tried to forget, only a lifeless shack stood in the place. The old man was nowhere to be found, but as the young man neared the table, standing in an empty room, was a letter with his name. Written in a barely legible scrawl, the message inside of it was comprised of one word: selfish.